Ephesians 5 and basically said, I would commit my life to you and die for you.
Being mindful of like bringing these moments to God and like actively like praying.
Now we living together and it's all this stuff popping up that is like, oh, this is when the classic, she changed. All right, what's up, everybody?
Hello, hello.
Welcome to another episode, Bowden Matrimony. My name is Robert Bowden. And to my left, I have my beautiful wife,
Corey Bolden.
Corey Bowden. And we have a good conversation today mapped out for you guys. We call it the golden question. We call it the golden question because we literally have heard it nonstop since the day after the wedding.
Literally.
So you probably already know what the question is. Take a guess. Put it in the comments if you already knew. But what is the question?
How's married life going so far?
This is the golden question. And it's a good question. It's a very good question, but I don't think we have enough time to really answer it honestly. So
Fully.
Yeah, fully. It's always honest, but I still feel like it's kind of a partial truth. We don't tell the full story.
I mean, it's just, and I mean, ultimately, it's great to answer the question, but there are so many like nuances in that greatness. It's not what people would think. A lot of people just ascribe it to like they follow it up, especially people who've attended our wedding. Like they see this, beautiful, immaculate wedding, and they, kind of compare it to that or think of that when they ask, and it's not really a fairy tale. It's not the fairy tale great that people would think. I mean, it's beautiful. In that beauty, it has its challenges. It's a lot of adjustments. It's a lot of changes. And so, and it's been 3 months coming up.
So the context of that is that usually when people ask, it's only a few seconds of answer. So you have to say either great or terrible. And there's no in between. So thankfully, we have a platform where we can share some more insight into the question. So for all of those who are wondering, how is Rob and Corey's marriage? Here you are. We can dig into it. So what makes it so great? What makes it so challenging? You described a few things, some different characteristics. What play into those things for you?
I think for me, and I shared in a previous episode that there was, the wedding day, and I was just game faced. Like,
You're super stoic.
I really surprised myself. I wasn't stoic. I was like, I was jubilant, but
you were still bouncy.
But my emotions did not hit me until the next day, and I was just like, "What in the world?" I was overwhelmed because it was a lot. I'm like, my whole identity is changed, and so I think there's been, a little bit of that over the course of the 3 months, where I'm realizing like, wow, this is like. It's not just me anymore. Like, it's me and Rob. It's Corey Bolden. It's not Corey Winters. And there are just a lot of things that, I have to think about in a different way. Even, where we live, and, at one point it was just me living here. Now it's our home, and it's just a lot of changes that come with that, and it's all beautiful. It's all like good things. However, it's not just like I was saying. Like, I think in some ways we had a lot of smooth It was an easy transition because we have such a strong foundation, and we had the tough conversations. And we were able to go deep in a lot of ways where once we came into our marriage, it was like, okay, that's cool. Yeah. But there were other things that I'm like, wow, I
The
didn't
things
even
that you
think
can't
about this.
prepare for.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of that when people this has been my response when people ask me that
Mm-hmm.
question. Rather than saying great or giving like the standard, I told a story.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, it's like you prepare from the engagement until the wedding, and you've been like preparing to climb this hill, and both of you guys get to the top of the hill, and you're celebrating, and you look to your right and
And there's
realize
another
there's
hill.
another hill, and you look across that hill and see many other hills. So it's like
Yeah.
it just never stops.
Yeah.
You enjoy the moments that you get to, of course, but you're also going to be met with new challenges.
Yeah.
And I think that sums it up in a minute or less for like, that's an honest.
Yeah, new challenges, new lessons, and it's like, and that's not to say that it's like, oh my gosh, a uphill battle
Right.
of like, I mean, but it really that I love that analogy because it captures those nuances
Yeah.
that people, that you don't really get to go into when people ask you that question. Because also when people ask that question, there's also an expectation that the
Right, right, right.
response is going to be like, oh, it's great, it's
Yeah.
perfect, it's this or that. And one of the things that we have realized is that, you know it how important it is to be intentional about
Yeah, for real.
like dates, like continuously going on dates, and not, because we're also getting into a routine of, of being married, and like, having a morning routine and work and coming home and cooking dinner and like all of those things, having a nighttime wind
Right.
down routine. But we also are like actively talking about and implementing ways to break those
Right.
routines,
Yeah, it's
and
strange
keep
in that
things,
way. Yeah.
yeah. So it's a lot of learning, it's a lot of, growing,
Hmm.
and things that we're realizing about ourselves, about one another. And so it's just a combination of
Yeah, so we can
things.
dig into that next. The
Yeah.
things that is once you are on the outside looking in,
Mhm.
meaning single but dating,
Mhm.
like there are things that you have to work towards, of course. And once you're married, like I said, you look to the right, you see this hill, and those are the
Mhm.
things that you couldn't necessarily prepare for.
Yeah.
So, specifically for our situation, we'll kind of tell the story of you being sick this
Mhm.
past week.
Mhm.
And I had a self realization
Mhm.
that in some way I'm still selfish. I
Mhm.
still think
We
like,
both are.
yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I can say that honestly because it literally smacked me in the face. So,
Yeah.
this idea of like two people becoming one takes communicating that and like
Mhm.
confessing that, being willing not only to say it to you, but to our followers as well. Like, I'm
Yeah.
selfish.
Yeah.
Because like, I had to look at myself like, wow, she in here sick, and I'm thinking about trying to hurry up and get to work and do all of this stuff, and it's been a few days that you've been sick, and you starting to get a little better, and you express to me like, I just want you to be here, like I just want your presence, I just want you to like just kick it with me, be here, and I could have did that. It takes no time to be still for a little while. I can work from home. I can
Mhm.
wash a couple dishes, make you some soup, do some little cute stuff like that. That would have been easy to do, but instead, I was thinking about myself and how I could like get what I wanted to get done in the day. So
Mhm.
that kind of disturbed me a little bit because like less than 3 months ago we just said our vows, and I said Ephesians 5, and basically said I would commit my life to you and die for you. And here I am thinking about myself. So that really kind of broke me down to, that's not to say that I'ma just tomorrow automatically be non-selfish. That's not typically how it works, but it
Yeah.
does work where you realize something and you take action on that thing and you allow for other people to speak into that thing when you
And
aren't.
you take it to God.
Yeah, and you take
Yeah.
it to God for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that was a very real moment. That was a big realization, but it was also a very I looking back on it, and all the moments that we have where we're able to be really raw and real and honest with one another. Because I told you straight up, I was like, I don't feel very loved in this
Yeah,
moment.
I'm like,
Like
ooh,
I don't really feel loved. And I think it was also like, um, you know, I was really phlegmy, I was coughing, I was this, I was that. And so for you also, you're just like you know, you wanted me to get better, but it's just kind of like, okay, part of me getting better is
yeah,
for you to be active in this with me. And so, not saying, and I don't want it to come
no,
off
no, no,
like
no,
you were
no, no,
just being totally neglectful,
yeah.
because you weren't.
I did wash the
Um,
dishes. I washed the dishes,
he did things. He and you know, made me soup. You
but it
got me
wasn't
things,
as I
but
wasn't
it was,
as intentional as I typically would
yeah,
be.
yeah. You were just you were in a little mood or whatever. But I think for the both of us, we just and there was actually a day where we were at home and we did not talk that whole day.
Yeah,
But it was me, for me on my end, I was just like, I'm just gonna give him his space and I'm gonna focus on what I can control, and that is work. Like I need to focus on getting my work done because I had taken off the day prior because I was sick and I actually felt worse that day. But I was like, I'ma just lean, I was just like, Lord, I need you to give me all the strength. And I that actually wound up being a very productive day. But go ahead, babe.
I was a little sick because not sick physically, but uh, she had a great day, and we didn't talk pretty much the whole day. And for me, typical Corey, like the old Corey, the non-renewed Corey,
Refined the non unrefined
the
Corey.
unrefined Corey would have been mad. Like she would have been a little upset, and that's how she would have, how I interpret it. She would express it by like going in the room,
Passive
closing the door,
aggressive.
and like not saying anything. So this is the narrative that I have in my head the whole time. We didn't talk, so we got this thing in our relationship. We say call and shout, like see something, say something. Like if you have a problem, speak up about it.
Hmm.
And I didn't do that day. So you having a great day. I'm in the kitchen. I hear praise and worship music coming from the bedroom. I'm like, bro, like, what's going on? And in my head,
I'm
here I
having a
am
great
thinking that
day.
she mad and like I'm still like annoyed at the situation because we not talking. And I'm like, how am I about to deal with this? Long story short, we end up talking about the situation that night and we realized it was all for nothing. We didn't have to like not talk all day because you had a great day and I was just basically annoyed because I thought that you was mad, but I was fine.
And I was giving him his space.
Yeah,
But
so it's like
and I also think it was a good thing for us to reflect on, because also during that time that we weren't talking, I was praying. I was praying for you. I was praying like, Lord, whatever needs to be, you know, brought to light, let it happen, you know, whatever Rob is wrestling with, whatever is getting to him, like, you know, I just pray that he's bringing it to you as well. I read this it's this book of prayers that a good friend of mine at my church, her name is Jessica. Hey, Jessica. She gifted me this book called The Power of a Praying Wife by Stormy O'Martian. And it was it's amazing. And I just like opened a prayer, and it was actually very, it was very spot on. I had shared
timely
it
for
with you
that day.
lately. It was very timely. But yeah, just being mindful of like bringing these moments to God and like actively like
Yeah.
praying, and just seeking God in those situations.
Yeah, and as I'm sitting here now realizing that I'm selfish towards my wife, which makes me feel horrible. There's a scripture that's ringing in my head where Jesus says the Son of Man didn't come to be served but to serve.
Hmm.
And I just literally went in the room, was like, all right, babe, what's going on? And we figured it out from there. But that was very cool to see because like that response that you gave me where you were fine and I had to accept that you were actually fine
Mm-hmm.
without like saying it in some twisted figure me out type way was cool. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I can respect that and I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and it gave me just some reassurance that like we don't have to go a day without talking to come to a solution.
Yeah. And
Because we can
sometimes
communicate.
silence is good. It's a good thing. I
Yeah, I
mean,
love
sometimes,
silence. That's the thing. I
yeah.
like my space. I like silence, and
Yeah.
I only didn't like it because I felt as though you had some type of issue,
Yeah.
whereas you didn't.
But to reel it all back to the original question, I think situations like this, we just like to be transparent and show kind of the full picture of when people ask us how is married life going. You know, short answer, great, beautiful. But in that, if you take a magnifying glass and
Right.
just like zoom or zone into that, it's, you know, you see these nuances, you see these challenges, you see these uncomfortable conversations that we have to work through together. You see us on our knees in separate rooms praying and,
Yeah.
you know, just going to God about things. And some of my prayers be like, Lord, get your son, because I I don't know what he on, but please get your son before I get him.
Oh, man.
But yeah, it be like that. It gets
Yeah.
that real. So, but we, like I said, like we said, like are intentional about having these conversations and just doing things that we both enjoy. We're going on a trip in a couple
Yeah.
weeks. We're going, you know, to New Orleans and just making sure we're still, you know, keeping
Yeah.
it.
I think the biggest thing is that like the wedding, people loved our wedding. They enjoyed our wedding. They still are kind of on a high from our wedding. It was beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
but like you had said earlier, just to emphasize that point, and that like the wedding and our marriage are different,
Mm-hmm.
and we cannot like carry over the image of our wedding to just believe that our marriage is just going to be sunshine and rainbows
It's
all the
fairy
time.
tale,
Yeah.
happily ever after type
Yeah,
thing.
so that's why we say like it is doing people sort of a disservice to say like, yeah, everything's great.
Just this one, it's like it's great, but not in the way that you
Exactly.
may think it's great.
Right. It needs a lot more context.
It's a lot more context around the
Yeah,
greatness
for sure.
of it.
But I'm glad that we started this platform to be able to like share those things
Mm-hmm.
because I don't think there's a lot of people who are talking about the challenges and the
Yeah.
things that they actually going through on a day to day. Of course, use discernment on what you share,
Yeah.
but like letting people into a portion of our lives, I think is important for
Yeah.
people to see like that image.
Yeah.
And I believe we still learning as well. So
Oh,
for people
absolutely. We
who
gonna
are
stay
out there
learning.
and who have been married, like you guys let us know, whether it be in the comments, DM, whatever it may be, different challenges that you may have experienced
And
with your
overcome.
husband or wife 3 months in. So
Mhm.
this is just a place where we can be refined. Iron
Yeah.
sharpens iron.
Yes.
And we certainly welcome that on this channel. So
Absolutely.
this was good. I enjoyed the conversation. You got anything else you would want to add?
I would just say one thing, one lesson. I think we can say maybe a takeaway. We always have a takeaway for me that I'm learning in my marriage and in relationships. I, at my core, unrefined Corey, I can be easily offended.
Yeah.
That's my instinct, to be easily offended. And when I notice that I am being offended, what one thing that I've been intentional about putting into practice is praying for the person that has offended me, and also praying for God to reveal what's in my heart that I need to let go of.
Yeah.
That I need to let go of. And so it's so liberating to it takes the power that you're giving this person away, and it puts the focus on loving them
Yeah.
as they are,
Yeah, that's
loving them
solid.
exactly as they are. And that goes, that's my husband, that's my mom, that's my dad, that's my sister, that's whoever, like, and that's something that I'm constantly asking God for strength and refinement in that area. So
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think that's a mic drop right there. For me, I think my takeaway is just remain in the spirit of humility, because it's difficult to like voice those things. Like that day, I'd rather sit where I was in all of my pity
Mm,
rather than addressing
your
something that would be
ego.
honest.
Hmm.
And that's difficult for men sometimes, and it was difficult for me, even though I'm like actively working at this thing.
Hmm.
So just like, all right, Jesus say, come to serve, not to be served. Go serve. Go talk to your wife.
Yep, serve.
Jesus is the living word. Use your words
Yeah.
to win her back over. And you didn't even have to be won over. I was the one tripping.
Yeah,
So
you were.
I think like so we just gotta realize those things, and be able to communicate even though it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. True,
Make sure to
y'all.
like, subscribe, do all of those things, and yeah, I look forward to continuing the conversation.
All right.
Until next
Deuces.
time.